that I know of. The United States
hardly affording
responded with
anything
strikes
anymore,
as well.
and just see
So,
that
like I
tons
say,
of people go without their
ceasefire is
medicines
going great.
that were supposed to
We
be
talked
provided to
yesterday
them
about
for free by
President
the
Trump
government.
and
Which is a
his
pretty bad
attempts
thing when you
to
think about that. They're getting
simultaneously
broke
reassure
if
the
they can't
nation
even afford for
that
random
this is
medicine.
just temporary. We're
Yeah, that's for
on
sure.
top of it.
Also, that seems to
Everything's
line up
going
with the
according
other
to
reports that
plan,
we had heard that
and
earlier this
we're gonna
year,
get a
like at
great
the beginning
deal
of
out of Iran
2026,
because they desperately
Russia had
want
generally
a deal.
switched to
But what
cutting off a
he
whole
was
bunch
talking
of
about
discretionary
yesterday
spending on
wasn't
things like
even
the
a memorandum of
healthcare
understanding. It
industry,
wasn't a
also
framework.
on
It
social
was
services for the Russians.
just
They had
simply
cut
like
down
a
a lot of that
verbal
stuff to bare bones, if not cutting
to
it completely,
begin to think
because they're
about
diverting
talking
all
about
the budget of the
maybe
Russian
at some
Federation
point
to the military.
getting to
So
an
it appears to
agreement.
be that
You
could
see
be a
what I
first
mean?
sign of it.
And
I'm not
it's essentially
entirely sure
it's
if the
certainly
medical
not
shortage is because of
binding
that
in any way, shape, or
completely,
form,
because
either
I'm not
on
sure
Iran
just because
or
the Russian
on the
government's not
United
buying it,
States.
it's like, what
However,
normal
after
Russians they
President
buying it
Trump
because you
came
gotta
out
have
and
medicine. So
reassured the
they can't
nation
even
with
buy
that,
it. Like they can't
the
find anywhere to
Iranians
even
got up
purchase
and
the
walked away from the
medication. That's the
table.
big
So
problem
they're
right now.
not
Yeah, it's a
negotiating
pretty bad one.
at
I mean,
all right now,
altogether,
from
the
what I
situation is
understand.
getting
But
overly
President Trump
desperate
gave
in Russia in every way.
interview.
Gas,
I'm going to play
medicines,
for
anything,
you a
most
couple of
essentials are
clips
becoming
from
hard
that.
to get.
And
And
the
of
worst
course, there's no
part
way to
about what I
survive
was
until
talking about
2030,
yesterday is the part where
2036.
Iran
10
is
years from
blaming
now,
President
if you
Trump
can't
by
get
saying
medicines
that
today,
we're not going
or
to
you
talk
can't
about a
get
deal
gas
until
today,
you
you're
stop the
generally
fighting
having a
in
hard
Lebanon.
time stretching that
Meanwhile,
for
Hezbollah
10 years
continues
down the road.
to
But moving us
strike
on out of
at
Moscow,
the
we've also been
IDF
able to
and
hear
at the
something
Israeli
else
people.
very
So
fascinating that happened in
Israel
Tula
fires
today.
back.
Down
What
in
does
the town
President
of
Trump do?
Tula,
He
or the
calls
city of
Bibi
Tula,
Netanyahu
this is a little
and calls
island
him an
right
effing
here.
idiot, or
This
telling you,
is
he
the
just goes
Tula
on a
Arms Factory,
profanity-laced
a
tirade
famous arms
against
factory.
Netanyahu.
The Tula Arms
And
Factory
President
has been
Trump actually
responsible for
admitted
producing some of
in this
Russia's
interview
finest
he gave
weapons, whatever
that
that
he had
means. They have
gone
produced
off
Nagant
on
revolvers,
Netanyahu.
those Nagants, really most everything that you would think of that's kind of dog shit surplus that you can buy in the United States for like $300, they make. And so Tula is a very important place for the Russians in the modern day. They produce gunpowder propellants, they produce some limited firearms, I believe mostly pistols these days. It's not a huge operation. Most of the major stuff's done out in the US by the Kalashnikov group. But this factory is still important to some extent for the Russian Federation's arms manufacturing. And the thing went up like a Roman candle today and was blazing in inferno in one of the buildings. We have no clue why this happened, but it is clearly some sort of an ammunition propellant fire, because the smoke is pure white, which only comes from an ammunition fire. Here's the clip.
While it's under attack. And President Trump is like, Bibi, you gotta stop this fighting
This place
in
looks like
Lebanon.
shit. Look,
Yeah,
there's
well, we
weeds
have
growing
to
in the
stop
roof.
fighting in Lebanon
Man,
as
this
soon
place
as
is
Hezbollah stops shooting at us.
Oh my
How hard
god,
is
God.
that? This is the exact same thing President Trump did with Zelensky and has done many times with Ukraine, saying, you guys just need to stop the fighting. Ukraine didn't choose to start the fighting. President Trump isn't willing to talk to the guy who did choose to start the fighting
roaster. Let's
and get
take a
him
look
to
at this
stop.
one.
He's not willing to put any pressure on Putin to stop. He just wants to put pressure on his allies. You know why? Because it's easier. And I hate to say this, but that is a weak position to put yourself in. That shows.
Man, it sounds like
weakness.
ammunition's on fire in
When
there.
you're afraid to confront the aggressor,
And actually, we're going to be breaking from
you
this
start
because we actually have
blaming
breaking
the
news apparently
victim,
coming out
it
right
shows
now. So, Matthew,
weakness
what do we
on
got?
your part. America
Okay, so we have some
loses
breaking
face.
news right now
You're
coming out of
America
Israel.
first.
There's
This
currently
should
sirens
burn
going off
you
in
up.
northern
This
Israel,
should
by
make
the way.
you very
And the reason why this is breaking news is
Listen to what
because,
the rest of
generally
the president
speaking,
saying.
the U.S. had said they had told Hezbollah to stop firing in Israel, and for a minute it seemed like they had stopped firing. But now we're seeing near Mateh Asher inside of northern Israel. Apparently there's now an air raid alert going off, and there could be more of them about to go off as well. So Israel generally has been trying to hold back because there was a very heated phone call between Netanyahu and the U.S. president the other day, where apparently they got into possibly maybe a cussing battle or something with the looks of it, or maybe some strong words were exchanged at the minimum. And the big issue is whether or not Israel's going to start striking the suburbs of Beirut over Hezbollah's attacks. So this could be destabilizing the situation even more, but we'll have to see if this turns into something larger. But right now sirens are going off that we can't confirm in Israel.
But he was very complimentary to
Looks like
President
it's
Trump and pointed
But
out
remember,
that
everybody, a
Israel
ceasefire
is
only means that you
actually
stop
fighting
shooting
on
as
behalf
much
of
as
the
you
whole
were.
world,
Doesn't mean that you
not
completely
just on
stop.
behalf of its own people.
Oh man, you know, definitions these days in the English language are very permeable, so you can make them whatever you want. So a pillow can be a weapon of mass destruction. We can just change the definition to that. Nobody really cares. Moving us on out of that news in northern Israel, we've also been able to see a couple of more clips, one last clip at least, of that fire in Tula.
So he's right about that. They certainly are. And again, it makes literally
It's a big
zero
fire.
sense
Listen, they got tooled up.
attacking
Man,
Netanyahu
I
and
think he
saying,
is
why
getting
don't you
tooled
stop
up.
the
I don't
fighting
think the
in
Russians got the
Lebanon?
tooling for that
When
kind of a thing, fire.
yesterday
I
or
think they
today,
have a tooling to
Hezbollah
make fire come out of the front of a rifle,
Iron
but
Dome
not a fire out of the
rocket
factory. I think that's a little bit
inside
beyond their
Israel
technical
with drones.
expertise. But before we
Israel
move on
is
into
really struggling
Ukraine
with
here
this
for
whole
a
drone
brief
thing.
moment and start
And
covering the
the
major
new
news
drones,
inside of
which
the front
came
lines of
from
Ukraine and
Russia
elsewhere, I do
and
want to say
given to
the humongous
Hezbollah
things to
are
everybody who
now
has been watching
killing
the show tonight.
Israeli
Over the course
soldiers
of the past
and
hour,
threatening
we've been able to
Israeli
see that
civilians
right now
as
we
well.
have
So
the highest
this
amount of
is
people that we've had
pretty
here over
gross,
the night, which is
to say the least.
15,000
Netanyahu,
people.
for his part,
59,000 people,
very
about
gently
660, I was
made it
almost about to
clear
hit 60.
that
But
the
59,000
Israelis
people
are
in
going to do
Denver
what they
over the
have to
course of
do,
this
and
first
they will
hour.
whip
That's
or
almost
without
1,000
the
people
United
a minute,
States,
which is
and
pretty
they
impressive
can
right there.
go it
Now, before we
alone
move on
if they
into the
need
rest of
to.
the major news that we have for the day, out of Ukraine and also out of Europe, the Americas, and the Middle East, I do want to make sure that we take a brief moment to thank all of y'all so much for watching so far. We still have a lot to go, and also get a chit chat with a couple of y'all by taking 3 live chats. So, Matthew, what do we got?
In the meantime, before we get to those super chats, we have some more breaking news right now. The attack against Israel has just expanded, it looks like, so there are more attacks breaking out. It looks like this has got to be a Hezbollah attack. It appears not to be a false alert because we're seeing that near Kiryat Shimona. There's also an air raid alert going off nearby to that town, and also we're seeing at the other part here closer to the coast of Israel on the northern end. We're also seeing some more there as well near Shalomi, it looks like. So it looks like there is a new attack here that we're seeing. So it looks like Hezbollah has not heeded the warnings of the United States. So right now with the situation being so tense between the United States and Israel of the situation, I would say there's a very high likelihood right now that Israel could decide to preemptively strike inside of Lebanon, which could send the Iran situation spiraling back out of control. So we'll have to watch for that, but that's definitely a big one there. It seems like a small thing, but it could turn into a big one pretty quick. But moving into our first super chat, though, and keeping an eye out for breaking news, the first one is going to go to none other than Hokie Redneck. And thank you very much, Hokie, for being a long-time channel legend and throwing in 2 $50 supports, and we do appreciate that very much. And Hokie said the first one, he said, if you had to pick one, Lenin, Stalin, or Putin, also, why do all their last names end in N?
I'd have to say, you know, you can't really pick any one of them, right? Because I'm always Putin, and then I'm always Stalin for more time. And on top of that, I like to sleep on nice linens. So how in the world can I pick one? Oh man, I'm telling you. But beyond that though, if I had to seriously pick one, I would say that I'd probably pick
Stop the fighting against
Lenin, probably. I mean, he's probably the least evil of the 3, come to think of it. I mean, you know, he was a pretty evil, well, you know, we're very evil bastards, the evil bastards here. But, you know, relatively on a scale, I would say that kind of Lenin probably was the least evil of the 3. But that's even a hard one to say because they're kind of all neck and neck for their own different reasons. But, Matthew, who would you pick?
Cannot go into Beirut.
Oh man, that's a tough one there. I will say, Stalin was just plain out murderous, like very, very murderous to say the least. So, honestly, out of all of them, I mean, Putin is getting pretty close to Stalin at this point. Like he's getting pretty close. But I would say Stalin's on up there when it comes to bastards of history. I would say he's up on the top. Lenin was an ideologue to a large degree, like very much so. He tried to kind of be like this thinker type person, but he was also a devil in his own right, for sure. Out of all of them, I'd have to say Lenin myself as well.
Yeah, I think everyone would generally be behind Lenin if you had to pick out those 3 only. I mean, if I had to pick out of everybody in the world, it certainly wouldn't be anyone from Russia that ever left their country. But if I had to pick amongst those 3, definitely Lenin. So a huge thanks to you for support, Hokie Redneck, and helping us channel keep on running. And also, before we get on into the second question, let's get Hokie Redneck's second super chat here, which we're going to count as just the first one altogether.
Did you know Lysol disinfectant
So this one goes to Hokie Redneck once again. It was 50, and he said, does Russia still have a royal czar bloodline back to the early 1900s?
Technically, kind of, yeah, but in reality, though, like, there's a lot of people down in Florida who claim to be Romanovs. I think they're kind of fibbing it a little because all the legitimate Romanovs, speaking of, like, the immediate family of the Romanov dynasty, they were all killed in a little basement of a shack, I think, near St. Petersburg back in, like, 1918 or 1917, I believe. And so there's a lot of extended relatives or people in general who just claim to be Romanovs because it has a lot of mystery to it. There's a lot of people think that Anastasia might have escaped and then went on to go live some life in the United States. But the reality of it is, folks, is that she's dead. She died in that basement along with the rest of her family. I mean, they found her body down there. And one interesting thing about that story is that the Romanovs thought they were going to be deported when they were captured by the Bolsheviks. And so they had filled up their coats. They had gotten on the biggest coats that they could get, and they filled them up with diamonds, jewelry, and other kinds of stuff. So that way, once they got exiled from the Russian Empire, they could then go off and try and sell this jewelry to get themselves a little bit of money and try and live off of that the rest of their lives. But when the Bolsheviks decided to execute them at the bottom of the basement, which was kind of like a last-minute decision, when they went down there and started shooting at them, the bullets were actually ricocheting off the jewelry and the diamonds and everything else that they had in their pockets. So there was loads of ricochets going on in the basement in the midst of it. You can actually see that, I think, on some of the walls down there. As a matter of fact, you can see that some of the bullets would be impacting on the left and right side of walls. They weren't aiming for that. That's just where the bullets were ricocheting, which is an interesting side fact. But generally, I would say that, at least in my opinion, you might be able to find it next to Ken Romanov that isn't a part of the immediate family and kind of say that they are sort of a Romanov in the line of succession, but no direct descendants of the Romanov dynasty exist because they were all killed in that little basement of that shack up there near St. Petersburg. So, big thanks to you for the support, Hoagie Redneck, and I hope that does answer that well, at least how I remember the history and the story. And make sure, folks, fact check me. I am a history major, but that part of history about what happened to the Romanovs, I'm not the biggest expert on, so we're really that knowledgeable on it. For that matter, I just kind of know the basic bones of the story. So make sure to check that to see if I'm correct, but that's generally how I remember it. So a big thanks to your support from this channel to keep it running, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the second question of the segment.
Alright, so this one's going to go to Gabby White. Thank you, Gabby, for the 20. We do appreciate that as well. And Gabby said thank you for all the excellent reporting and for the Costco Chicken Fund in LSA.
And thank you so much for enjoying our excellent report and helping us to have a Costco Chicken Fund. It's excellent. See what I did there, Hanks? Chickens. That's a good one. But beyond that, man, I hit some dad jokes tonight like no other. But I do have to say, a humongous thanks to you so much for the support and enjoying the news. Because folks like you and Hoagie Redneck and everybody else who's been supporting the channel tonight, y'all help us to be able to keep the stream ad-free and sponsor-free and to report the news the way y'all like to hear it, which is how we cover it every day. We are never beholden to what YouTube would like us to say because of the ads, and we're never beholden to what sponsors would like us to say to keep sponsor-friendly so we can make a living. Y'all have been crowdfunding this news years, and we massively thank y'all so much for the Costco Chicken Funds, the pizza funds, the coffee funds, and every other support that y'all have given, because it helps us to keep this thing rolling day in and day out. So humongous thanks to you so much once again. Hope that us addressed that well. And we're on to the last question of the segment, and then we're getting back into the rest of the news from Ukraine and around the world.
Alright, so the last one of the segment here is going to go to none other than Trister1. Also another channel legend, and thank you very much, Trister, for the $20 support. He said, for the Corgi card.
Hey! Oh, we love corgis. Corgis are great creatures. Wonderful creatures. I love a corgi. Don't you love a corgi? I love a corgi. Let me show you all a picture of a corgi. There's a corgi. Look at that corgi. Cute corgi.
Look at that. The little legs right there. They're really fighters. They're really safe. They are a herding breed of dog. So, they're really into that nipping, like biting and chomping and stuff at ankles. So, it's really something. Small legs, but a big package.
Man,
That's not the same as canceling it.
How the hell can you make that dirty, man? How can you know what I'm saying? Bro, like, man, your mind's in the gutter, man. You're living in the gutter.
I ain't living in no gutter. I'm living in the sewer. But outside of that, though, I love corgis. Corgis are great. Sadly, we had to leave behind Mr. Corgi and Sheba back in the Bama lands. But I do have to say that hopefully we'll be able to either reunite with our corgis or hopefully get some corgis eventually. It's just hard to take care of dogs, folks, with the kind of schedule we have. Because it's very irregular. We can go live at any moment and have to start working. And then it becomes hard to make sure that dogs are fed and then they get up at the right times of the day and to take care of them. And that's kind of the tough part about keeping dogs, at least with the line of work that we have. But I would love to make sure that we have, that I personally have a corgi one day, and that we both have corgis one day. But still, a big thanks to you for the support and help this channel to keep it running. I hope that I've addressed that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next. Also, also I see a lot of people heard what I heard. Man, everyone's saying freaky. Man, like, dude, I knew it. I knew it.
Everybody's got their mind in the gutter. That's the problem these days. Everyone's got their mind in the gutter. I mean, there's nothing you can't say anymore. I mean, everything's getting an AO. I mean, you can be like, yeah, I was walking up the hill and I tripped on a rock. AO? You gotta watch everything, man. They got me paranoid to speak these days. Like, I'm just saying something, everybody's like, AO? It's crazy.
Man, so it's Andrew in the sewer so deep, he's been in the drill. No, I'm so deep in the sewer, I'm asking this planet, bringing the pizzas around. But anyway, so that, maybe it's time for us to get on into the rest of the news that we have for the night, because we still have a lot to go. Jeez, folks, got a lot of stuff to cover. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So moving us on and into the rest of the Ukrainian news that we were able to get for the day, we have been able to hear that down in Sevastopol, things have gotten sticky for the Russians. Apparently, we were able to hear that there were attacks at Kache and Baalbek airfields just north of Sevastopol, and explosives have been heard from both airfields. The Ukrainians will be publishing that footage tomorrow without a doubt of what exactly they hit in those airfields. I can promise you all that. We also got to see that something did blow up in Sevastopol, so that was kind of neat. Take a look.
In the dead of night.
Well, yeah.
Terror in the Gulf.
Well, shut down that was a very big video, but that was definitely a serious hit. I wonder what it did.
Oh, that one was me? Oh, that one was me? Well, this one ain't.
International airport caused casualties and shut down air activity in the country. Only hours after another round of exchanges of blows between the United States and Iran.
Man, damn!
And also, by the way, Sevastopol is where they recently had the Russian headquarters building. Like what was it, a few days back? They hit the headquarters, I think.
Yeah, I think it was for like the Rotary Aviation or the Naval Aviation headquarters. It was one or the other. And they hit that one and burned it out. So we're guessing that there was some sort of a lack in command capabilities for a temporary period of time until they got the backup headquarters set up, if they have one, which is a lot to count on for the Russians to have one. But it certainly looks like Sevastopol, Simferopol, and the rest of the Crimean Peninsula are getting absolutely obliterated at this point by Ukrainian long-range attacks. Also, we were able to additionally see that up in Melitopol, on the crossroads of the land bridge, things were also going poorly up here. The Ukrainians hit something, we don't know what it was, but it burned profusely. This thing caught on fire like kindling.
And also the whole truth about what's happening in our neighborhood, the Middle East. Today is July 3rd. Let's begin.
Why does the dude sound like he's like in the church or something? I think like,
man, why the world does he sound like a 1930s radio announcer? He's like, man, it's like, what the hell, bro? It's like,
yeah, really, man. He's mummified by this whole situation.
Right, he's got a gas mask on, little do we know. He's talking through the filter. Man, it's like, damn, bro, it's like, take that thing off and speak normally. James, breaking us out here. We also get to see the fire from another angle. For what caused it.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of the very merry drone.
Military operation was carried out
On the wind chimes.
I can't stand wind chimes, man. I can't stand it.
United States military.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, my God. Oh, man, that thing is buzzing in.
And published the following statement.
That thing has a mission.
What the hell? Who is this?
What is this, man? What is wrong with this dude? Are those tattoos?
I don't know. I think that might just be dirt or something. I have no clue.
This dude, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not trying to do the guy dirty, but he looks like a straight up tweaker, like walking into the frame. This is a very sketchy shot. Like if you happen to be walking in the area and you saw this dude come like wandering out of the building over there, you'd probably like go back inside and lock the door.
Bro, this looks like the crocodile lab. So you got the tweaker here, like the local one, just wondering what. I'm not gonna lie, folks. This whole front frame part here near to the camera looks like it was clipped in over an original video. It doesn't even look like it's a part of the main video. But then the guy comes up, does that. I don't know what for. Guy is moving like a tweaker. Like. And then moving on from that absolutely random clip, we then see the fire from another angle in Melitopol.
Authorities in Kuwait announced that the main
Ray came outside, was looking for the vodka statue. Everybody thought he was coming outside to go see what the damage was with the drone, but he was looking over the roof. I'm like, I think he was looking for something else.
Passenger flights were stopped.
Man, and then meanwhile,
right, everybody wants to get in on this.
Man, meanwhile, we got this girl here trying to get some internet clout. I'm watching the Ukrainians blow up an ammo dump. And this girl, it's like, yeah, turn it around so we can see the fire and the burning explosion.
To reach an agreement of understanding that would extend the ceasefire, reopen
There
up
we
the
go.
Strait of Hormuz, and
Oh,
set
this
a
guy.
timeline for the continuation of the discussions.
Somebody's
A
getting,
draft formulated
somebody's
last
getting the hell
week
beat out of
included
back here
a
in the
written
background, so somebody
Iranian
gets slammed around in a prison
not to
cell.
work
Man,
towards
someone getting
obtaining nuclear
the
weapons,
brakes beat off.
but did not include
It's like,
commitments regarding the
it's
regime's
like, damn,
entire
bro, every
nuclear
clip
program.
out of Meltapol is like a nut house. Honestly, like this whole thing was wild. But moving us on out of the strikes in Meltapol, we also got to see that the Ukrainians did conduct some strikes on Donetsk City, which isn't that far behind the lines, but they did cook them. So here's the clip. That sounds like an ammo dump blowing up.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio referred to this difficulty and said that
Oh!
at the end of the day, he
Oh!
negotiated with people who then
Oh my God, it's
negotiate
fucking
each
wild!
other's own system in order to see what they're allowed to give and what they're allowed to agree to. An official news agency confirmed
Oh my
that
God!
the updated draft is under review in Tehran.
Oh,
American officials
that sounded like it was kinetic.
Oh
my God.
Oh!
Oh my God, that was
Oh my
kinetic.
God, that was MLRS!
Man, there was a whole missile when firing up.
Secretary
Yeah.
of State Marco Rubio
Oh my God, they're going everywhere.
will take place only in exchange
Oh,
for
that's
a full concession
Oh my
on the
God.
Iranian nuclear program. Rubio denied that a compromise
Oh!
in exchange for
Oh my
only
God!
nuclear for Tehran's conventional defense system
Oh!
Oh man, dude, the last frame of that video was crazy. It was like something went nuclear at the end. Look at that. Something went nuclear right there.
Cut out the best part!
Bro, I think the camera might have shut off after this nuke went off right there. Man, these guys are crazy. They're filming it. So one of those rockets could easily take off and go straight for their building, like the way they're like firing off every which direction. That's crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, we haven't seen an ammo dump fire like this in a minute. I see a lot of people going, that's fireworks. No. Hey, bro, like they're having a giant fireworks story in the middle of an active battlefield. Like, come on. This is an ammo depot. We've seen these blown up years before, and a lot of them were generally looking like fireworks and ammunition stores, or fireworks stores blowing up. Fireworks and ammunition stores really don't mesh. But they would generally look like this, and this is one hell of a hit. I gotta say, this end part, though, was crazy with the little MLRS rocket flying off in the distance. It's insane! Bro, that's probably like a 127 millimeter rocket getting launched into the stratosphere out of this ammo dump fire. Who knows where the thing landed, hopefully on nobody down on the ground. But an absolutely crazy clip of the ammo dump that was in Donetsk. Moving us on out of that bit of news, we've also been able to see as well that the loss report has been somewhat interesting. But before we get to that, we do have to show this interesting little clip here of this Russian grad getting obliterated. This thing has been modded to hell. It looks like a Mad Max vehicle.
The step comes at the time where
They
the
put
United
those
States
covers
close
over
to an
the
almost
like the
complete
tire wells
blockage
and stuff
of
like
the
you put on like
Strait of
hybrid
Hormuz,
cars, like
which
that
is
like that
causing
Honda
turmoil and deep shock in
Prelude or something like that,
global
like the old
energy
version.
According to a report by the
Man.
Bloomberg News
Oh,
Agency.
Insight. No, it's a Honda Insight. My
And one
bad. It's
more
not the
thing
Prelude.
that
The Prelude's
bothered us
different.
this
That's a
week.
sportier version. The
leak about
Insight was the one with like
President
the
of the
covers
United
over the
States
wheels.
Also, I got a really
shouted at
important
Israeli Prime
question.
Minister.
Why is the wall already
We
filled
asked
with
who
millions
leaked
of
it,
shrapnel
what was
holes?
leaked, and
You probably don't want to
what the
know.
context
Probably
was.
not.
Now,
I
it
mean,
seems
it's a
that
good
whoever
question,
leaked
though.
it
I mean, it's worth
managed to take
answering
the
at
remarks
least.
out
Oh,
of
there's a
the
char
full
mark here on the
context.
wall. I think we can all get an
President of the
idea that
United States
this building has already been
confirmed
hit
that he
before
used
by the
harsh
Ukrainians.
expressions
Instead of the
towards
Russians
Benjamin
picking a
Netanyahu
different
during
one,
a
they just put the
conversation
next
between the
vehicle
two
in the
about
building
the fight
after the
in
last
Lebanon.
one.
But alongside the criticism, Trump emphasized his close relationship
Oh my
with the
God,
Prime
and it was
Minister
fully
and
loaded.
said,
Oh,
"I
that
like
had to be
Bibi
terrible.
very much."
That had to be awful. This thing had 40 rockets in it, the
Excellent.
full load. Once
Look,
that gets hit, that is going off
it
like a
seems that
bomb. We're
the
probably
two
going to see a
leaders
couple of
are
MLRS
very
rockets go
comfortable
shooting out
with
the
each
front of the building, too.
and know
But
how
moving
to
us
work
on out of that
together
bit of
very well.
news, we also get to see the Russian
Like
casualty
that
report over the past 24
sometimes
hours. And
they have
hopefully,
disagreements.
Oh, they got 4 Bobcats, 4 of them, a quad set of Bobcats right there. I must say, that's a nice catch for one day. But tell us more.
Not bad at all. And according to Ms. Deasy, keeper of the records, 437 vehicles and fuel tanks is the 4th highest daily loss.
and I work with him
6 ground robotic complexes is the 10th highest, which is not shown. But over the past 24 hours, we have been able to hear that 1,130 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 7 APCs, 437 supply trucks, 5 main battle tanks, 60 artillery pieces, 1,853 drones, 5 MLRSs, 40 cruise missiles, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and 4 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, a pretty impressive day and a good thing to see. Moving us through the front, the Ukrainians have been able to hold the front line down today and have been able to inflict those large losses that we just covered a moment ago, and we were able to see that a Shahed was shot down over Kyiv by an unknown air defense system.
The Iranian regime managed this week to sell crude oil to China worth billions of dollars, despite American sanctions.
Very nice.
Today, we will bring you how it works. Israel and the Lebanese government found a solution for the Hezbollah terrorist organization.
And that chicken going off.
What do you think?
Man, if that missile had hit that chicken, we're going to be talking about some hearty fried chicken. That's still KFC. We also got to see that up in the area of Kupiansk, there were also some losses of some Type 63 MLRSs that the Russians were trying to use. These are the ones that North Korea gave to them that are called Hwachak here on the channel.
The move does indeed have support here in Israel. An official
I gotta tell y'all,
in the
folks, over the
administration in
years, I feel like
Washington made
English has
clear
gotten harder
Trump
to
asked
speak.
to prevent
I don't know what it
escalation
is about
in
that.
order not to turn Lebanon into
As long as you can get it out some way or another, that's all that counts, I guess. If it comes out as English, I guess it still counts. But, I tell you what, the Ukrainians, they speak a different language right here. They speak a language of success.
What's happening in Israel.
Great success! Это русский motor. I forgot the name of the word for destroyed, but anyways, moving us on out of that clip, we also got to see that down in the Seversk area, there were some more Russian forces that got hit by the Apache strike group of the 81st Air Mobile Brigade.
And for Mati Shoshani on our social media accounts.
Wow, the transitions here are getting advanced.
Our eyes of what it's like to live here in Israel during this war. So our senior Middle East correspondent, Mati Shoshani, if Iran is already hitting Kuwait and Bahrain, and not only threatening
They are
Israel
making sure to hold
American
back on
ships,
Seversk front, which has been slightly jeopardized because there was a brigade commander that gave up Seversk on the Ukrainian side, and they were relieved of their command and investigated afterwards because it didn't appear that the position was no longer untenable, and they just gave it up for some reason. But since then, the Ukrainians have been holding them on the very other side of Seversk and have been stopping them from advancing further in towards the city of Slavyansk. We also got to see on the Konstantinivka front that the Ukrainians were targeting and hitting Russian logistics and other forces in the area as well.
The Gulf states, the countries who trade, who work, who buy
Oh, and look,
weapons from
that
the
Russian
US,
tried to run
they're
off the
the ones who
road.
suffered
Look
the
at that, they
most
pulled over,
from Iran's
they're hopping out, but the clown car, it just couldn't
United
take
Arab
it, you know?
Emirates. They took a strike, or more strikes,
Holy
with total munitions.
Wow, there's a
than
lot of these
all
like
during
little
this
crappy cars that are like a lot of
A
Nivas or
semi-friendly
Honkas.
one
Or
was
some
taken
They're
big
ugly looking.
from
It's
the
like a
Iranians,
ATV
as have, of course,
car
quite a few
or
other
something.
states,
Also, here's a
including
loaf. Look at
going
this. Look
nowhere
at this
near
thing. These
being a real
ugly
friend,
loaves.
of the U.S. and are much
Bro,
more
they painted the
closer to
Z on
ones
this
such
one
as
and
Oman,
everything. They
that
get
is
it blown
close,
up.
to
Man,
the
I haven't
Strait
seen
of
the
Hormuz
Z
area
for a long time.
and
Like,
a
that's
close
actually pretty
ally
rare
on
these
certain
days.
cases of the Iranians. But
Yeah, it
here's
is
what's
kind of
what's
rare,
interesting
I
in
will
this whole
say.
conversation. In this last time frame, recent hours, recent
But
days,
that is the clip
Iran
from
slowly
36
upped
Marine
the
Brigade,
tempo
still
of
showing them
attacks
inflicting
and
significant
damage towards
losses.
targets
In the
that are
meantime, the
in the
Ukrainians
Gulf
were also
states.
using the
They're doing this for two
M142
main
HIMARS
reasons.
to conduct
One,
some
because it's an easy
counter
target.
battery against
It
the
doesn't
Russian artillery.
require long-range ballistic missiles such as reaching Israel that are, for the
And
most case,
there
also
goes the
intercepted
rocket.
and
But I sadly
therefore
won't be
less
able to show you all
effective.
more than that.
But
Because
it
this
is
watermark up here in
effective
the top
in
left gives me
causing
the
fear,
hippity-jeepities.
putting
And I
international
don't know
pressure
what
on
in the
the
world
US
those
region
people
and
are. So we're just going to show those few
whatever
seconds
you
of the
wanna
clip
call
and
this
move
conflict,
on.
a war
We don't
or
need to
an
infringe.
extended
Moving us
ceasefire.
on into
Why is
Pokrovsk,
this
we also
important?
got to see that
This is
25th
important
Airborne Brigade was
because
also
Iran is
doing their
this
work against the
as a
Russian soldiers
mechanism
as well,
of
making sure
pressure.
to slow them
They tried it
down.
with economic pressure by closing the Strait of Hormuz. They're trying it with
Or put
political
them down.
pressure
Whatever
by
wordage works
targeting
for
these
y'all.
countries and trying
But
to
moving
use
us on
them
out of the Pokrovsk
push
front,
the
we also
US
were able to
to
see
change policy and
additionally
change
that
behavior.
within the area of
And of
Velika
course, they're trying
Novosilka,
it once
Russian
more.
forces
Now
were
again,
also hit.
with a
Apparently,
combination of the
that
two.
one was
Strait of
too
Hormuz is
spicy,
closed, so they're
apparently, too
squeezing them, they're causing
spaciously.
damage to
So
them
moving us on
financially,
and out of all
and
this
therefore
news,
they're
that is
gonna
actually
pressure
largely
us.
our entire
And
Ukraine war
now they're
segment.
launching
So moving us
attacks
on
at them,
and out of
UAVs
Ukraine,
and others,
it's now time for us
other
folks to move on
projectiles to
down
say,
and into
look, we can
the
continue to harm
middle
you.
of the
Why don't you
East,
go and
which
cry
has
to
been quite an interesting story today, and we're going to cover it the best we can given the circumstances. But I do have to say, folks, that starting off the news segment, we are fairly aggravated and quite a great deal about the situation with Kuwait, which we'll be getting to here in a minute, as we did get to hear that according to IRGC sources, they targeted a U.S. warship in the Gulf of Oman today. We don't really know the condition of the situation due to a myriad of reasons. It appears to be an Iranian claim that was given, and at the moment, considering that we have no video or picture evidence, we're only taking that as a claim and not a validified piece of news, and we're also not discounting it as a lie either. And there's an important reason why. Many of y'all will know that CENTCOM put out a statement today saying that the situation never even happened. The problem with that, though, is that the CENTCOM command put out a statement yesterday which stated something that seems to have been completely untrue. To show you all the statement from yesterday that's in question, and to remind you all of what happened yesterday, to give you all a little bit of an update on what's going to be happening here on this channel, CENTCOM put out a statement about the attempted attack on Kuwait and Bahrain that was conducted by Iran with a decent number of ballistic missiles and drones, and stated the following: Iran launched several ballistic missiles towards regional neighbors. However, all failed to hit their intended targets. Now, this is an important one to remember, and I want to make sure to have a little bit of emphasis here on this one, because they said that all of them failed to hit their intended targets. Now, we go to today, the present day, we can see that that statement was an absolute lie. It was a lie to the point that it is unbelievable how bad it is, and it's been causing basically a scandal on the internet as to how badly misrepresented the situation is from CENTCOM's continuous statements online and through their Twitter accounts, which have time and time again proven to be completely untrue and unreliable. Footage came out to show you all this quick. Make sure to show you regional neighbors. That's what the United States said. Regional partners and regional neighbors. None of the missiles and none of the drones reached their intended targets. This is security camera footage from the Kuwait International Airport from the time of the attack. And that right there is a Shahed 136, and it flies right into the building and explodes. That strike killed one Kuwaiti citizen and injured 63. According to CENTCOM,
I think the death toll's up to 2 people have been killed at this point.
So now there's 2 people dead, and I'm guessing there's 62 wounded.
The soldiers,
something like that, yeah, but I've heard apparently an hour or 2 ago that they said that another person had been confirmed dead from what I'd heard.
Interesting. So to correct the number here, because I actually didn't hear about the second person who's passed away, but there are now 2 people dead and 62 injured. I'm assuming that one of the injured ended up succumbing to their grievous wounds that were suffered from this attack. According to CENTCOM, however, just to remind everyone here, CENTCOM stated that this didn't happen at all. Let me show you this here. Yesterday, they stated that all incoming missiles failed to hit their included targets. Also, drones as well were included in the statement, as we can see right up here. So,
Iranian crypto assets around the world. I think I heard someone in the U.S. Treasury, this was earlier this week, state that they've already seized close to $1 billion of crypto wallets from the Iranians. I've also heard today that several Israeli hacker groups have stolen, I think it was in recent days, $80 million of Iranian crypto wallets from them. And of course, it's probably a very complicated process, but this is something that's happening on an ongoing basis. But yes, the financial element is substantial because, and I say this all the time, and I think anyone who follows this topic will say it, you don't end this war by military force. It doesn't end with a bomb. It doesn't end with a bombing mission for a plane or with soldiers on the ground. That's not how this war ends. It ends with an agreement, and an agreement includes the financial component. And finances are key. Iran is a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship that might have elections, but don't get them wrong. They are not elected by the people. They dictate what the people do. They control them in an authoritarian way in a very, very substantial manner. And because of that, they need cash. They need cash to pay the hundreds of thousands of IRGC and Basij soldiers and enforcers that do their bidding on the streets and scare away anyone who's trying to stand up to the government. They need that to pay for the war machine that is the IRGC. They need that to pay for their proxy mechanism, which is Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and others around the world that they use to try and spread terrorism. They need cash, and the U.S. is going after their cash. By the way, not only the U.S.,
also the people we talked about just a second ago, the Gulf states, have publicly said, you know what? We realize it's not worthwhile being your friends. We know where you're keeping some of your crypto. We know where you're hiding assets through shell companies and corporations. We're coming after them, and we're going to seize them, and we're going to use them to pay for the damages you caused in this war. I think it's both humorous. It's also, well, it's what they have coming. If they're going after the wallets and the cash of these countries, well, they deserve to have the same done to them. And yes, the U.S. using financial tools is important, but it's not new to this war. It's been done in many wars because that's often the ways, or one of the ways you bring down a terrorist entity, by going after their cash, after their pocket, and then making them a little softer to negotiate with.
Mati, if Israel continues to strike Hezbollah while the United States is trying to close an agreement with Iran, has Lebanon became the real test of the question of who is running the Middle East? Washington, Jerusalem, or Tehran?
My sense is that this attempt to try and frame Israeli attacks in Lebanon as something that goes against U.S. policy, I think it's an inaccurate attempt to do so. We're clearly not saying that here on TV in Israel. We're saying that the story is far more complex. One, for those of you who've forgotten, I think most people haven't forgotten yet, there's reports of this very tense conversation that took place regarding Israeli operations in Lebanon between President Trump and Netanyahu. But the main story, and this is happening today, we've heard clarifications from the White House on this topic that said, yes, it was a heated conversation, but of course the U.S. is committed to the very warm, the very important, the very serious relationship they have with the people of Israel, with the state of Israel, and with the Prime Minister of Israel. Knowing that what's happening in Lebanon is more of a bigger problem. The problem is